What's up, my civil? So yeah, I wanted to say hi. I hope you're doing all well and everything. This is a weird little edition of what's going on with the Geek Mense Shoot the Shit podcast. So we kind of had a situation where we went on for 3 hours, and I didn't want to subject anybody to that. So I had to kind of split them out into an hour and a half each for this episode. So what you're watching now is the Star Wars Visions segment of our Geek Men's Shoot the Shit podcast. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you like it and everything. And please like, share, and subscribe if you do enjoy the content. And we're gonna try and avoid doing this in the future, but we had no choice this time. So yeah, see you at the end of the video. Peace. Speaking of interesting Marvel properties, though, or Disney properties rather, so we just caught Star Wars Visions. I don't know if
Yeah.
I managed to catch all of the episodes of Star. I watched it in sub because I think some of the dub was just a little bit too meh for me.
Okay.
Sometimes, like again, for me, it's what sounds good. I think some of the dub sounded good, but I think some of the people, because I don't know if it's a thing. You tell me, but like in anime, sometimes when they English dub it, the people don't really voice act. They kind of do like this stilted talking,
I think it's
and it's
because they
like,
just because some people some that's why voice acting is an actual skill is that you have to act. Some people are just reading their lines off paper. Some people are
yeah,
just literally reading their script on a mic. Other people actually act. They actually voice act. You can tell people that are actually doing the actions while they're talking, and other people are just kind of reading a script.
yeah. Like if you've seen Mark Hamill, like when he plays the Joker in a lot of properties behind the booth,
Yeah.
he's very all animated, and he's actually doing some. And they actually said that some of the animators said they based some of like Joker's actions
Yes.
on what he would do with like his face and what he would do with his hands and all of that stuff. So yeah, no, it is a thing like where you actually have to put your back into it per se
Yeah.
because I
I'll
know with like the
I'll
anime, yeah,
I'll be honest. I watched the dub version, and
yeah,
most of the episodes were really good. The cast, like how star packed the cast were for the English dubbing, though. Uh,
yeah. Like I know
Simu
Simu Liu was in there.
Simulu was the Ronin in the first episode. I know Alison Brie. She was with the twins episode. The dude who plays Boba Fett.
I must actually check that out. I must check out that first one in dub and just see how it was
Yeah, the
because that
original
that that
Boba
was
Fett
actually
dude
good.
does. I think it's the third episode. The actual guy,
Yeah,
what's his name? Morrison something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tiramisu Morrison or something. The actual Australian dude who plays Boba Fett, he does the voice for Boba Fett. We've got Jordan Levitt. What's his name? Um, 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 Something
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Barney from How I Met Your Mother,
Oh, Neil
Doogie
Patrick Harris.
Howser,
Neil Patrick
Neil
Harris.
Patrick Harris, he's voice acting here as well. So there's a mad, like crazy star-studded cast here in the dub
Yeah, okay.
version.
I need to check it out then. I need to check it out in dub then. I think like just some of the episodes that I checked out in dub, it was just like like some of the characters were just like, look, dude, can you put some more
The
emotion
first,
into it?
I'll be honest, the first episode, the dub wasn't because I first watched it on sub and then I realized it had a second audio track on it, so I watched it in with the dub version. I first watched the first episode subbed and then I watched the dub. The sub version of the first episode is better than the dub version, but the first episode you didn't even I don't think you needed any words in that very first episode.
Yeah, I mean, but like, let's get into the actual episodes first.
Yeah.
So I liked the first one a lot. I thought it was very interesting. I thought some of the fight choreography was really good and all of that stuff. It was like it was basically like a very simple lone samurai
Yeah.
story type thing. Some people have said that it wasn't really Star Wars, and I kind of understand it because if you just replaced everything with swords and you didn't need the force or whatever, like it would still play out the same or whatever. But I guess maybe like the counter criticism to that I saw online was people saying they needed to settle people in for what this was gonna be because not a lot of people are into anime, but a lot of people are into Star
Yeah.
Wars
I thought
or
I
vice versa.
thought I thought the
Yeah,
first
go ahead.
episode I thought the first episode was actually too jarring for the first episode. If the first episode was like the third episode, I think it would have been easier, to start to get the idea of what they were doing. Because I think the first episode had the most different, harder style to, because it had that black and white scratchy style with just the lightsabers being lit and lights, electronic lights being lit. You're absolutely right. It was just feudal Japan, but who says that there isn't a planet somewhere, or planets, or a system where that feudal style is just the dominant style throughout that sector of the universe? So,
Yeah, no, no, no. I mean that's definitely a possibility. But yeah, I did enjoy the episode a lot. I think I did enjoy it. And I thought it was a nice plot twist to see that he had a red lightsaber. I think that was just interesting to me because I think the one thing I've always been disappointed in with Star Wars, I think, is just that first off, I've always loved the Jedi. I know people love the bounty hunters. I know, but the thing that hooked me to Star Wars because again, I'm not like the hugest fan of Star Wars. I'm always aware of Star Wars. I'm aware of certain storylines. I'm aware of certain characters. I read Star Wars Legends at some stage, and also I've read like some really interesting stories in Star Wars. Like for example, the reason why the John Boyega character Finn was so disappointing to me is because there was an actual story in Star Wars where there was a trooper who
who
was
became a Jedi,
brainwashed
who was
and
force
then he
sensitive.
became a Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, who was force sensitive, and he became a Jedi to help rebel against and because he was a stormtrooper, he like helps other stormtroopers, and like they have a whole story about
Yeah.
rehabilitation, which was really cool, and all of that stuff.
But they
So yeah,
they
yeah,
they
good.
implied that storyline in, or that things in, what was the one? The Lost,
Force
no,
Awakens.
episode 9.
Oh yeah. Oh, the Rise of
The
Skywalker or
Rise of the
something.
Skywalker. Yeah, so they kind of implied that kind of ideas in there, but they never saw it through. But yeah, I think,
Ray Witcher actually told me, I actually need to bring this back one day somehow, but when I upgrade my internet. But Ray Witcher told me when I was doing the creative podcast, that they actually have a Star Wars special where Ray is training him in the ways of the Jedi. So he's actually a confirmed Jedi in canon now.
yeah,
It's just that they didn't show it in the movie,
in the
which was
movie.
kind of like that's cool, but it's kind of like it's not
Yeah,
cool. But
and
I think anyway.
in the movie, they never fulfilled the thing. He kept wanting to tell her something, and the fact that he wielded, like earlier on, there was a point where he wielded a lightsaber. So they were basically implying he's force sensitive, and the whole time throughout, but they never gave us that, us as the viewer, the reward of him saying, or Ray coming to him and it's like, let me train you, you're force sensitive or whatever. Um, I get that. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with Star Wars, and like people sometimes miss the point. Star Wars is like opposing religions or opposing ideologies. That's what it's all about. Both sides have their value and both sides have their strength. It's kind of a chickening out perspective to some degree, that the dark side is just bad and the light side is just good. It is still a story about yin and yang, that, the Tao.
No, I think definitely like one thing in the prequels that I did kind of they expand on it in like other Star Wars media because I think like George Lucas is an idea guy. I
Yeah,
think that's his thing, and I think when he made the first three movies, he had people who could control his ideas. But then when he got to the prequels, there was nobody to hold him back. So it was just idea, 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 idea,
yeah,
idea, and there was like no controlled through line to
yeah.
hold all the ideas together.
No
But like he
conclusion.
introduced
Yeah,
yeah, he introduced a lot of good stuff. Like when Qui Gon Jinn is arguing with the Jedi Council, that's interesting because the Jedi Council was so like the Force is benevolent, the Force will handle everything. And Qui-Gon is like, no, dude, we need to do stuff. Like,
But
we
if,
can't
even
just
if
be
you
sitting here
even if you look at
meditating.
ideas like behind like the color sabers you wield, right? It's like um they kind of go into this. They kind of touch on it. I think it's one of the later. I think it's the episode called the Ninth Jedi. They kind of go into the colors of your saber and stuff of your lightsaber. So this is like nerd talk and stuff like that. But if you like look at Qui-Gon Jinn, like Yoda, and some other characters, they have green sabers. Green sabers are people who are more diplomatic. They're more in touch with the force. So they're not really driven as much by the politics um, 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 around everything. They just I'm with the force. The force is good. I don't really give a shit about the politics that's happening in the Senate and this stuff. We're just keeping balance. Yoda's kind of about that, although Yoda was tied up in the Senate. Then you've got someone like this is not, or it was made canon, but it's like then you get people like Mace Windu, Samuel L. Jackson's
Yeah,
character. Then he's got a purple saber. What is a purple saber? Purple is a mixture of red, which is a corrupted kyber crystal, and blue, which is like the warrior, like the soldiers. Blue is the symbol of the knight, or the fighter, the guy who takes orders and fights on behalf of the Jedi. Don't ask questions, we get instructions and we kind of follow that. But then you get an interesting character, which is like Ahsoka. Ahsoka doesn't have, she chose not to have a faction. Yes? So, the point with Mace Windu, the purple saber, he's more inclined to more drastic, almost dark side ideologies, almost like colder, calculating, like, he's almost a bad guy, but he's doing it in the way of good, you know?
yeah, no, it's a thing where he can dabble in, like, he's a gray Jedi, they
Yeah,
say.
he's
Like,
not exactly a grey Jedi. Grey Jedi is like Ahsoka is almost a grey Jedi, but because she's almost reached master, she was Padawan level. Her her blades have no inclination. She uses white blades. Her
mm,
sabers are white.
well, I heard a lot about Mace being a gray Jedi because he's able to
It
use.
kind of is. So there aren't much of that sort of ideas of grey Jedi's. Like the dude in Rogue One, the blind guy, right? If he were to pick up a lightsaber, he probably could wield a lightsaber, even though he wasn't a Jedi. He was just force sensitive. He probably could wield it and not be labeled a Jedi. It's almost like Jedi is like a label, like being religious, like a religious faction. What if you're not?
Yeah, yeah,
What if you
yeah.
just are force sensitive? You have this connection to the force, but you don't have an affiliation to the Jedi, which can become fanatical, which just was Anakin's problem because Jedi's were so fanatical with their rules. You can't have love. Uh, you must commit yourself. You must almost be like a monk for there to stay purely pure. They don't believe in your
Yeah,
own
no, I mean,
ability.
yeah, that was the thing that I found very
Yeah,
interesting
they don't believe
because,
in your
like,
ability of self-restraint. And that's why like this first episode was a cool one, is that this dude had no respect for the lightsaber either. He just cracked it open, took the kyber crystal out because it can power a new weapon, and he gave it to the kid, like um he was a Ronin. He had no affiliation. He told her, when he got in the fight with that Sith chick, he was like, I'm no Jedi. He's just a Ronin. He's someone who happens to be force sensitive. He wanders. He helps people. You don't know if he's good. His actions seem good because he helped the village. Um, but what is the problem with having a red sword? People just associate the fact that you have a red saber that you're evil. I know
yeah,
there
no, I
is
mean that is. Yeah, sorry, go
I
ahead.
know there is some law that like if you good, it will affect your kyber crystal, and your kyber crystal will the color will change. Like there's that kind of law as well. But I don't think I think this was just like interesting concepts on top of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. One, but I think two, they kind of break that in some of the Star Wars comics, I guess,
Mm,
because it is that thing of it's factions and idealism.
yeah,
Basically, I think the crystals themselves don't actually denote any sort of like. I think like
affiliation.
if you don't have to be a Sith if you have a red one,
Yeah,
because I mean, like we've seen like other characters use other people's lightsabers and they're still pretty effective. It doesn't change the fighting
Grievous
style.
is not even force sensitive, but he uses multiple. General
Yeah.
Grievous, and he uses multiple lightsabers. He literally
So
collects
I
them.
think that's the thing that I was talking about is that Star Wars has like that potential to, tell more types of those stories,
Yeah,
especially with the Jedi. Like it would be because I mean there's some interesting stuff in the comic books where they actually have a Padawan who he has to run away from the council that he's a part of because they're actually involved in this conspiracy where they're controlling the city and they're trying to like brainwash citizens to be more like them or
yeah,
whatever. And he disagrees because he's like, that's not how we're supposed to use the force. And
exactly.
and then he has to like he has to go on the run because he gets deemed like a traitor to the Jedi Council or whatever. So he's being hunted by the Jedi. And they hire like bounty hunters, like people like Boba Fett and all of that stuff.
Mm,
So like it is that thing of it's not just good or bad. There's more to it than that, I guess.
exactly.
It's like it's what you do with the lightsaber versus what the color is
Yeah.
because his one ends up turning green because he becomes that in turn like that in tune with the
Who's
force.
this
But
now?
I forgot his name. Jeez,
Oh,
I really it was a long time when I read this. I just really like the story because he's not a Skywalker or anything. He was just somebody part of the
yeah.
Jedi Council, and he
Well, it's
ends
the
up
same like even with Luke. Initially, when Luke first has his lightsaber, he starts off with no, where am I right? Yeah, he starts off with the blue lightsaber. because
yeah
that was because that was Anakin's lightsaber, the night lightsaber. And then when he builds his own lightsaber afterwards, it's green like Yoda.
yeah.
You know,
No,
so
and Luke also technically is a great Jedi because he can use Force lightning and all of that stuff. So technically, he dabbles in both sides of the Force.
look, comic based on the comics and what the prequel, yeah, not the prequels, the sequels that came out now. Um, some of it is no longer canon. I know that there's some of the comic ideas that are not, but again, there's the series did give us interesting ideas along that sort of thing, that like the color of your lightsaber doesn't always denote your skill. The Ninth Jedi was a cool one where the girl initially, like when she's playing with the lightsaber, it has no color, and as the episode progresses and she's fighting for a
Yeah.
reason.
I think let's start talking about them a little bit more in order before we get to the ninth one because I think that's probably my favorite one. Like
Yeah.
it's between the ninth Jedi and the one with the family. I think those two are my favorite.
Oh
But
yeah.
like
I
number
like
two, I feel
twins.
like we can.
I really like twins. I like the second one.
Oh yeah,
Now the third one, the third
yeah.
episode.
I don't know how I felt about that one because I mean there was the one with what's his name Jabba. That one
Yes,
with the Jabba
that's the
dude,
second
it was
one.
all right.
This,
Yeah, it was all
but
right. I wasn't like a
it's
big fan of it.
all touching on these kind. They touch very softly on these kind of concepts, but it's like because I'm force sensitive, am I automatically so automatically the Jedi Council decides that I'm a Padawan, right? So in that episode, that was like almost I think of it like Gorillas, like the band episode.
Yeah,
Um, you start off uh, a Padawan, and then you're like, nah, fuck the Jedi Order. I just want to make music.
yeah,
And then the story gets even strengthened because this guy's a hut who's out for execution, and he also just wanted to make music. They just wanted to be a band and make music, and you can turn your back, even though he still walks around, I suppose, with his lightsaber on his waist. Um, you can make the choice if you want to, to not why be a Jedi just because you force sensitive. You don't need to follow the instructions of the council.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
should
yeah.
be able to
No, I
live
mean that
your
was an
own life.
interesting concept. I just think that there were other episodes that were stronger.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
it was an interesting idea that there are people running around in the because that's the other thing about Star Wars. Like I think one thing I hated about the prequels was the midichlorians. I feel like they can fix that if they say like you can have a certain level of midichlorians, but it doesn't exclude anybody from the Force.
Yes.
So if you don't have midichlorians, you can still have access to the Force. Because I always liked the idea of the Force being something anybody can tap into should they choose to. So
But I think
yeah,
the idea was that midichlorians is just like the pseudoscience word for the force. You know what I mean? It's
I
like
guess
it's
so.
like
Maybe.
like that's how I like to interpret it in my head. Midichlorians is a pseudoscience word for a manifestation of the force, and that the force exists within everything, in everything, and when it clusters together in the individual, in a thing, that's when you become even more force sensitive. That everyone has some kind of connection to the force. It's just that some people have it more dense. It's like that was actually the concept I used to explain the quasi universe. Um, why
I
certain
think that's
people
the
are
thing
more
though, is
powerful than
that I
other
think
people.
George Lucas. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to
It's
cut you off.
how some people are more powerful in the quasi universe than other people. Is that the tendril that connects you? Like in normal people, the tendril is as thin as a hair, and in some people, the tendril is as thick as a tree. And the thicker the tendril is that connects you to that force, the more powerful, the more you draw your power out of that thing.
Yeah. No, I think the thing is that George Lucas in the movie he didn't convey that idea clear enough for me. It
Yeah.
just felt like it was something that existed in certain people, which is why we kept getting Skywalker stories
Yeah.
and Rey was gonna be a Skywalker, but she had to be a Palpatine. It was just like certain people just have these special cells.
Do you
So I like
do you think
sorry, go ahead.
it's kind of biblical? I don't want to go down this line, but it is kind of biblical. Like if you check like your Bible, like your actual Bible, like everyone in the Bible is connected by descendancy, so ancestry. Like all the way through from like Adam and Eve is connected to David. David is the ancestor of Jesus Christ, and so forth and so forth. And Star Wars is kind of following that trend that somehow everyone is connected. And it's a story following descendancies of family. It's like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, I mean like but as we just discussed now with Star Wars visions and everything, I think it's more interesting to have different people do different things with the
Yes.
Force and have some people turn their back on the Force or have some people, have Jedi councils who make the Force go to their head and they think because they're on the side of good, they can like brainwash entire cities.
Yeah.
And then you can get somewhere where there's like a Sith Lord who believes in total freedom. So he's like ruling this kingdom and he's like, no, everybody here gets to do whatever they want because here in this in on the dark side of the Force, quote unquote,
But I
we
think
believe in letting people choose.
But I think it needs to be more people that sit in that middle. Like Sith Lord is also fanatical and way too much on the extreme. And then you get Jedi Council, like you said, who want power, then they start to become like ancient popes used to be, and why you had stuff like the crusades in our actual world, like in world history, why you had stuff like the crusades and Spanish inquisitions and stuff like that, all in the name of like what's good, what's Christian, what's godly, I think that's the kind of play. But then you have people that exist in between, like you said, the Jedi Council wants to brainwash people because it's easier to control them than to give them free will. So a Sith comes along, or someone who's in tune more or leaning more towards the dark side comes along and says no, that's bullshit, and fucks them up and uses some Sith powers, but they're not like truly a Sith. Maybe they even have a red blade, but they're doing good because the idea of good and
Mm.
bad is subjective to the people that's being objectified by it. You know, there's some
Yeah, yeah.
there's even some interesting thing. Like I said, twins. The reason why I like twins, one, because it was done by Trigger Animation.
Yeah.
And Trigger, their animation styles is dope. And I liked what they
Triggerfish. Was it
Trigger,
Triggerfish here?
Trigger.
Oh,
The guys who did
okay,
Gurren
okay.
Lagann and Kill la Kill.
Oh, because I thought you were saying it was like Triggerfish here in South
Mm,
Africa. I was like,
Trigger,
wow. But
Trigger,
anyway, yeah.
Trigger. Yeah.
That'd
um,
be cool though. That'd be cool though, because I think Triggerfish is a great studio. But anyway,
yeah.
getting back to
So
that.
so
Yeah,
like
that
so like the twins
yeah.
episode was kind of cool for me because they were like really dope visuals. There was a lot of like mirroring happening. Their ships were two destroyers that were connected in the middle. Um, everything was in twos. And as the episode, even the swipes and stuff was very Star Warsy as it started. But as the episode progressed, it became more Trigger style of action with the foreshortening and the things. And it had an interesting concept that, like, what if you were born in the Empire? You were trained to be, you force sensitive, but you were forced to be dark side, to be Sith, and to actually switch. We always see stories about Jedi's becoming Sith or giving into the dark side. What if you were born to be dark side and you give into the light side? You switch
Mm.
factions, and that I think that was the idea in the story of
And
twins.
also the interesting thing, like again, I think also it was very much. It wasn't my favorite episode for me, but I did think it was a cool idea that
Hmm.
the reason why he ends up quote unquote going to the light side is simply because he's like, if we keep doing this, my sister who I love will
Will
die.
lose. Yeah,
Like it's not even like I'm going to the light side because the Sith are bad. It's simply I love my sister. I don't want her to die because of this
because
stupid
of the
faction
force.
stuff.
Yeah, she'll
Yeah.
succumb to the dark side, and it will eventually kill her. So I'm going to the light, or I'm going to use the power of the light. It's the same story like Anakin. Anakin had a premonition that his family was going to die, and he didn't want people to die. He didn't want Padme to die, and he tapped into the power of the dark side. I'd love to see the story of the person that taps into the power of the dark side without succumbing to it and just uses the power of both sides. It's like the actual like balance, the dude who actually sits in the middle.
A great character who did that was Starkiller in
Start,
the
yes,
in the Force
yes,
Awakens. Yeah, like not Force Awakens, sorry, in the Force Unleashed in the
yes.
video
Force
games.
Unleashed 1 and
He's one
2.
of my favorite Jedi
Yeah,
because he does actually go to that middle where he just uses the powers. Like he uses the powers, but he's using them to defend people and all of that
exactly.
stuff. So I really like Starkiller in that particular aspect. But then moving on, then what was the episode after the twins episode? I'm just trying to
Oh,
remember
was the
now.
Village Bride episode.
Oh, I actually like that episode a
That was
lot.
just a
Not a
good.
lot of action
Do
going
you
on
know?
there.
Do you
Not a
know
lot
why
of
you like that episode?
what?
Because it was done by the same studio that did Shield Hero.
Oh, hey, 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 hey. I actually noticed the style. But I think also another thing that I liked about the episode is that it kind of expanded the Star Wars universe in a sense.
Yeah,
Because these people were talking about, like, first off, we get this mysterious Jedi woman because a lot of them are mysterious Jedi. We don't even
yeah.
know their names for a lot of these
And
episodes.
wearing this
I think we
mask.
get names in episodes. Yeah, I think we get a name in the episodes with the twins. We get a name in episode in the ninth Jedi episode, and we get a name with the episode with the family where they adopt that bunny
Oh
girl.
yes, yes. I like
I
that
don't think we
episode.
get a
I think
lot
that's my
of
favorite
names
one.
for yeah, yeah. But yeah, just with this one, I liked how in the village they were talking about being one with the planet and all of that stuff, and basically how it was an allegory for like describing the force in a different manner. So like with the Stephen King's universe, right? Stephen King,
Oh
like
yes.
he has like he'll have like the Shining or whatever, but then if you go to another one with the Mist, it's like it's the same connective force or same thing. It's just being described by people in different ways. Like the same thing that creates it is the same thing that's connected to like The
Yeah.
Shining. So I kind of liked that idea. Like also Street Fighter does this as well. So how Goken talks about Muno Hado or
Yeah.
whatever, or
Hado.
that
Yeah.
spiritual energy. Yeah, and then you go to somebody like Dalasm, and Daoism is like, yeah, it's the yoga energy, it's the energy that connects everybody in the universe. It's like the same thing, just interpreted differently by
Yeah.
different people.
Chang Li
So
might
I
call
like
it like
that
chi
aspect.
or something like that. Yeah. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
So I like that's what I liked about that episode a lot is that they were kind of expanding on the force and using the force in a different way. They were
Hmm.
using the force to be in harmony with nature. They weren't using it as a combative art or anything
Yeah.
like that. So I thought that was a nice expansion of the universe as well. And it was also kind of really feel good. You don't get a lot of action and everything. I like the couple in it, even though we see them briefly.
Yeah. And the
And then
sister. Yeah.
obviously you get the Empire, and that's the other thing. The Empire and the Sith are not exclusive. I think,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people make that mistake, like because the Empire is evil. Like, I don't want to hear nothing about like the Empire. They suck.
But the Empire's not the episode you spoke about. Um. What? Which I think that was like, was it the second last episode with the bunny girl?
Yeah.
That touches on that.
We'll get to that. We'll get to
Yeah,
there though. We'll
yeah,
get
like I
there.
was,
I
I
think.
wanted to like touch on that because you say the thing, the empire is evil. However, it depends on your perspective. Like for some people, would be like, oh, like if you think about small towns that maybe get automotive industry. Like in America during that whole steel mill revolution, having a mine and having a steel mill in the town gave everybody jobs. It put vehicles out. It kept the town sustained. When those things got shut down because of pollution or things like that, people lost jobs. So I kind of think of the empire like that big industry putting something in your town. There are there are consequences, but for the individuals or the units of people, the 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 security it gives them is worth what they weigh up and what they lose in freedoms, I suppose. So the empire is also not totally um, evil. You know, the empire was worried about trade routes and setting up. You have to conform. It's about whether freedom is worth more value than wealth of your city or nation. And again, there is an episode in this that
Yeah.
talks about
When
that.
we get to that episode, I'll give you my perspective on that for a second. But yeah. So I did like that. I did like the village and everything, and also the fight scene at the end and all of that stuff. And I would like to see a continuation of that Jedi story, just to
Yeah.
see what their story is and everything, because she was an interesting Jedi to me. And then
That's the
after
cool thing
that, we
that you
get
mentioned like that.
oh
Like the
sorry,
cool
go
thing
ahead.
about these episodes as well is like even though you have these episodes, they could all kind of continue in a way. Like you could have, I can imagine full animes based on every single one of these episodes. This is almost like
Yeah.
these all feel like teasers for what could be expanded universes for each story.
No, all right, and then the next one after the Village Bride
The
was
Ninth Jedi, probably one of my favorite episodes.
oh yeah, I really liked that episode. I really liked that episode. So like the Ninth Jedi, it kind of felt the most complete in terms of story.
Yes.
I think outside of the other episode that we're gonna get to. But yeah, I really like the animation in that. I liked a lot of the characters in it. I liked that girl because I think also they like one thing I liked about them is I think they did with that girl what they should have done with Rey in the original trilogy, in the sense that she's really good, but she doesn't wreck everyone.
Mm.
Like I really like that. I like that she could handle herself, but it didn't mean that she was going to just start destroying Jedi masters
Yeah.
or whatever.
because like also the fight scene was perfect. I really love those fight scenes. They were so kinetic because they were so anime, but they were so Star Wars as well.
Yes,
Like I really liked that episode a lot.
and
The one
that
guy I felt sorry for was the guy who came in with the guy you thought was gonna be like the anime protagonist hero,
yeah.
like but like he doesn't get much to do.
And look again, it's like with the head or not the head canon. I suppose it's canon now. Um, the canon about the sabers. It was different because this could have been swords again, like you said. This is one of those episodes that was really well done. In my head, it fit well in how the deception happens, or because clearly this is
Mm,
after this is in Ray's time. Funny enough that you mentioned that. This would have been around about that same time because it's after the Empire is defeated and the Sith is going around, or the Jedi's are defeated, taken out, and Jedi's are scattered around the universe. Um, and old masters, the leftover, are looking or calling out in the Force to new Jedi, and how a Padawan, how the Force leads a Padawan to their potential master, and that a master has multiple Padawans technically, because the one dude, the big guy that kind of had that animal face or whatever, um, his saber in the end, the colors their sabers turned as they were fighting. That was like really cool. It's like your energy was focusing through the sword. Hers, she kind of had an extendo stick. Her saber had special abilities. It could stretch and shrink and stuff like that. That was cool to show like how you can reach out, like manifesting physically, visually, and without over explaining was kind of like cool to see in this kind of universe, and this, and it was still very feudal Japan-ish, very classic anime-ish. Her father's a sabersmith, which I didn't know honestly to that existed like in the Star Wars mythos. But for this story, it was great. Like to add that
mm.
a father actually builds sabers, and then the wielder determines what the saber does. Like when those other Sith guys all get sabers, they turn it on, it's red immediately. Even the
Yeah,
big guy, his saber was red. And then when the master shows himself and he snaps out of his dark intentions, his saber turns purple.
yeah.
So he's kind of like, and the protagonist dude, he had a blue saber, which is obviously like the knight, the normal warrior type of soldier style Jedi. Um, the terminology is the fact that immediately, oh, because I wield the force and I wielded a saber, I'm automatically a Jedi. Um,
No,
that
they
could
break
be
that down
toyed
here.
with a bit more, but the way they did it in this episode, like you said, I did think it was kind of perfect. It was like really on point, and how the canon of your soul or your inclination interprets your saber. Does that mean that people who fight later on, like if that big dude fights more and he becomes more righteous, his saber might turn more blue than purple? Or would he always be
Yeah,
this?
I thought that was an interesting concept. Also, what I found very interesting was because I suspected the robot from Jump. I
Yeah,
thought he was the one laying the trap. I was
yeah.
just like, this is a trap. He's gonna kill all of these Jedi. They're not gonna make it through this, etc., etc., etc. I was legit shocked when they picked up the sabers and then it all goes red. I was like, oh,
And it was
okay.
and it was actually the flip that he was actually
Yeah,
a Jedi master leading Sith to a trap. And at the same
yeah.
time, he had like a dual intention, um, basically determining people, force sensitive people's intentions. So he
Mm,
was technically the one that didn't lay a trap for the Jedi. He actually laid a trap for the Sith.
yeah.
And it was like a cool twist that had a really dope ending with her coming to terms. And you are absolutely right. I didn't actually think of it in that context. That would have been a great. way for Rey's character to evolve as well. That like this thing and leads her to becoming like a Padawan or being trained or um unfortunately like the Luke story or the Kylo Ren story. Shit, these Jedi's and Sith are just so powerful off the gate. Their force abilities is like through the roof. You could understand that with like Anakin becoming Darth Vader, but now every new character we see basically has that potential to either be the greatest Sith or the greatest. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I would have thought
Also,
of
I think
Ray.
they had interesting stuff. I think they had interesting stuff with Ray and Luke, but they just didn't develop it enough. Like I think Luke falling out of love with the Force was an interesting thing, but they didn't really expand on it.
Don't
I
you
think
don't you think that in that story, like the Ray story, would have been perfect if Ray became the ultimate Grey Jedi, the person that stands in the middle? Because now the Jedi's don't really exist. Their power and influence, the good of the influence could be enough to keep her good, but none of the fanaticism behind it exists anymore. And the Sith side, the power she gets out of the Sith, also being a descendant of one of the Dark Sidious, being or Palpatine being a descendant of one of the greatest Siths. Um, and like maybe like even Kylo's influence. Kylo also walked two sides. Kylo was either all in or he was like not in at all. He either became I was like I'm Sith following in my grandfather's legacy, or he flips around and then it's like I'm in my uncle's legacy. Now I'm a Jedi at the end. Like if Rey was this character that sat in between, that was like she's neutral. She understands the value in maybe the dark side. Like I'd love that to be explored. Like the value of the dark side of the force and the value in the light side. Again, like the yin and yang. Like um that the being that balance between the two and understanding that in power and in ultimate power there is some value, but in consideration and the light side and walking that line and constantly being in between. I thought that's where they were going with it, and they never like
yeah,
fulfilled. Then it was just like, no, I'm a Jedi now.
yeah, and also I mean bringing back Palpatine was not a good move in my opinion. Just tying it way too much to the originals was just like
Yeah,
That's one thing I will give the prequels is that the prequels they don't feel like anything that came before it.
yeah,
Like they didn't feel like the original trilogy at all. Like they felt like they were their own. I mean, they had their own nonsense to them, in my personal opinion. But I still feel like they felt like their own thing. Whereas I think like this new trilogy kept on trying to dip back into the nostalgia a bit too much. And I really enjoyed those first three movies. I really do.
yeah.
But I felt like, you know, with the newer ones, they like I liked Force Awakens a lot, even though I hate what they did to Finn at the end. That was sucker. That was so sucker. But like I just think that I think as it went on, they just tried keep on going back to the stuff that people like instead of doing what Star Wars Visions has done, is taking the stuff that people like and expanding on it,
Yeah.
which is
Like
why I
I
really like the Ninth Jedi.
Yeah, like the Ninth Jedi. If that were to come out as like a full series, 50 odd episodes, I'd totally watch it. Like these guys,
And I really like that girl, like the main
yes,
that little girl that they had. I would like to see her evolve and become a Jedi and like build
exactly.
the Jedi Council alongside like those four people. I would
Yeah,
watch an anime series based on those four characters.
and exploring each of their perspectives. Like you've got the master who comes from the Jedi Council clearly, who comes from the Jedi Council, who's a bit eccentric, who's kind of like a Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan ish character. He's actually way more Qui-Gon than Obi-Wan. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I hate the fact that Qui-Gon was killed off so early. Like if
yeah,
Qui-Gon didn't die, Anakin wouldn't have become Darth Vader. So he
Yeah,
wouldn't have
yeah,
turned as much to the dark side. Then we might have got our Star Killer version of Anakin, which I
yeah,
always hoped we would get. Um,
yeah.
so you've got this master who's been schooled in the Jedi perspective. You've got this character that's constantly in conflict with his dark and light side. You've got the character that's the noble knight, I suppose, or the um the soldier, I suppose. Because soldiers follow orders, so he's the Obi-Wan Anakin style character who follows orders, who would probably follow the master's instructions to the letter. And then you get this girl who's new in it, who's just, because her lightsaber turns green, which means that she's more in tune with the force than the politics around the force.
But like the other thing I liked about it was with her, even though her lightsaber turns green, she can't use her force powers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like she's using force powers just to move and get out the way, but she's not force pushing anything.
She's not
She
force
can't do all the
jumping.
fancy
Yeah,
yeah, she can't do all the fancy tricks yet. So I
yeah,
thought that was interesting as well. Just like as a story component,
yeah.
that yeah, she's skilled with the force, but she knows how to use the lightsaber. She can't do all the things,
But this would be,
which
but
is
but again,
something
why that would make this such a good series is like, as it goes on, she'd be learning these skills. She'd be training. That maybe be going from like um, village to village, maybe either growing the group or hunting down Sith, or something like that. Like this would actually make such a dope full series.
and
The episode I
and
thought was the most, and the next episode, which was the Astro Boy episode, the Toby T O
yeah,
TOB1 or something like that.
yeah.
Toby, no, it was
I like
Toby
it.
One. Toby One, like Obi
Yeah,
Wan.
yeah,
Toby
yeah.
One. No,
I noticed it too.
it was two. Was it? Did they call him Toby One or Toby One? Toby One.
I no, I think it was Toby one.
And then at the end he says, "My name is Toby" or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah,
kind of a Pinocchio story in a way.
yeah. I like that, and I also like that. That's also an expansion of the Force in a sense,
Yeah,
because it's like also like because the robot has sentience,
exactly.
it can now also connect to the Force.
Hmm.
I thought that was an interesting aspect as well. And I mean, first off, I mean, like a kid, he was just pressing buttons and
Yeah.
everything. But I got so mad. I was just like, "You're gonna call the Sith right here? Like you gonna call the Sith right to this planet? Come on!"
And you get your mad,
But
like even that old Professor Master dude that he had. It's like, yo, what happened to old boy's arms? I want to see that story. How do you wield the force without arms? How do you use your lightsaber without arms? Because
well, I
when
mean, I guess if he can use the Force, then he can use his lightsaber. But I mean, that was also
no,
pretty
but his
cool in the
lightsaber
sense.
was broken, so I'm assuming maybe it was in a fight with
Oh,
the Sith and they cut that lightsaber in half or something like that. Because they gave
oh,
him,
maybe.
because he gave Toby two parts. He didn't give him a full saber.
Yeah. But I mean, I thought that was cool. And I like the implied aspect that he was training Toby in the Force
Yeah,
with all of his experiments and all of that stuff and how he was bringing life to the planet and everything. It was kind of like implied that he was inadvertently training this robot in the Force, which I thought was really cool. I like the animation style a lot and
yeah.
everything. The
That
only thing that I
I'm
kind of
not
had a
sure,
little
but
bit of
I
issue with,
swear that must be the Astro Boy Studio who did that, right?
yeah, it might be. It might be them. It might
I
be them.
actually
The
didn't
only
check.
issue I had though, I had one issue. Is just that I hate it when characters have a super move and they wait till the end of the episode to use it. Like
What
that's just one thing that kind of bothers me.
when he merged with his droid?
Yeah, I was just like, this guy is destroying you. He's killing your master. You're gonna whip out the super move at the end. Like
Yeah, but
I get it. I get it that it's supposed to be like a final, result move type of thing. But there was plenty of indications in the fight to me where I was just like, if you had this move, you should have whipped it out a lot earlier than you did
yeah,
because you were
like
losing pretty badly.
like you imagine him in the future, and he's just like got all these droids like merged into him, and he's like this massive like dude, like you know. Um,
But again,
I like the
I would like to see a
resolution.
continuation.
I like the resolution of that episode though. That's a very different way of looking at a Jedi as well. Because at
Mm.
the end, his resolution is like, I don't necessarily need to fight. I'll fulfill my master or my father's duty, and I will create life or vegetation or whatever on other planets. I'm not my goal isn't to go around looking for Sith to kill them. It's to actually help people by giving them um, by terraforming planets so that more life can exist in the universe. That was actually a very nice. It was a cute story. It wasn't the most like I suppose if you sit down and want to think a lot about it, there is a lot of allegories and metaphors, but on the surface, it's just like a nice, easily consumable, visually appealing episode. It had some cool action. Um, like
Yeah.
you like you said, it's got the super moves. It's got a lot of cool implications in it. Um, it's kind of gave me that AI. I don't know if you remember that movie AI,
Nah, I don't think so.
artificial intelligence with the little boy who's like a robot replacement. That he's just so happy-go-lucky. Like your planet was destroyed. The Sith know where this place is. Your father got killed, and you fought the Sith. Fine, you survived. But you resolve and you're still happy. You got like no sadness, and it's all your fault actually.
Yeah. No,
Because
I think they do play into that because he does cry. Like they do have that
yeah.
whole
Oh
emotional
yes,
scene.
yes. That was also a moment
Yeah.
that is a droid.
Like where he looks at all of his father's things.
Yes.
And I think they do have a thing where I mean, yeah, I mean if we're talking about like human resolution, he does get over it way too quickly. Like
Yeah.
it was like what they did in the Lion King after they killed Mufasa.
Mufasa.
Then the next
Yeah.
thing is then the next thing is Akuna Matata
Yeah. The
in the
mo.
jungle. It's
Yeah.
like no, it's like we just saw a lion, we just saw Mufasa get thrown off a cliff, and now you're going
And
into
trampled
Akuna
by
Matata.
antelope.
I saw two memes that made me laugh. One meme was like, what's this? One meme was this Lion King made everybody bipolar because then they show like Mufasa dying and then underneath they were showing Simba, Zakuna, Matata. We went from crying and super sad
True.
to Hakuna Matata, no worries. It means no worries. So it's like that made people bipolar. And then the second meme I saw that was funny, right? Is what's this? Pumbaa dies of a heart attack. Timon is like, "Oh my god, Pumbaa!" And then Simba's like, "Hey, Hakuna Matata,
Matata.
Hakuna." And then Timon is like, "How could you?" And he's like, "Remember when my dad died, and the thing you told me was Hakuna Matata? You remember that?"
Means no worries for the rest of my day.
I laughed so hard at those two memes. It was funny. But
Oh,
yeah, I think, and then also, as you said, the resolution I think was brilliant because, like he says, no, I'm gonna continue my
my
father's work.
father's work.
I think that was a way of him taking
Yeah.
responsibility for what he did because he was not interested in doing that
No,
stuff
in
at
the
all.
whole
He was
episode, he
interested
was
in
going
going
like,
on.
"That's
Yeah,
boring work. I don't want to do this. I want to be an adventurer and explore." Yeah.
yeah, so I thought that was a brilliant I would like to see a continuation of that character as well.
Yes.
Like Star Wars, like George Lucas created something amazing that you could have any number of pocket stories and pocket things going on, and it can all be canon.
Yeah.
And unlike Marvel, it doesn't have to be different universes. It can just be all of these different pocket stories, different pocket characters in different universes, just doing different things.
Yeah.
I thought that would be great because
And
I
it,
would watch the hell out of a series like that and the Ninth
and the
Jedi and
Ninth
all of
Jedi.
that.
Yeah, me as a creator myself as well, like with the stuff that we do, um, we can only hope that someday, like the type of worlds we create, have opportunities like this. Like we have nine very different episodes that can exist canonically or do exist technically canonically in this universe that Lucas built, and they all actually have their value. Some episodes are definitely stronger than others. I think we've made that clear. Um, but um, yeah, to have a universe where anything like this is possible, where the lore can be expanded on, where people can add their own head canon to it, um, as long as it makes sense, it's absolutely fantastic. And to be able to do an anthology series like this is absolutely amazing. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
the next episode we got is where oh, it's called The Elder. It's where where the Padawan and the Jedi Master go to that go to the planet, and you've got the young Padawan who's looking for adventure, and
Oh,
they're going to the
yeah.
outer
This
ring.
this one I didn't care for. I was excited to see a black Jedi personally, but like he was the worst. He
I,
was the worst. He was talking so much smack. I'm ready to fight. I mean, I got this.
but
And
this was again one of those slower moments. I think they tied that they were a bit more in that Jedi wisdom ideology. I like the message at the end of this episode. The message
yeah,
at the core of this episode um, is that they were basically playing on it. The 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 student has become the master. So
mm,
the message behind this whole episode was like this diagram type of thing that you've got the Sith Master who shows up. He's an old guy. He didn't pass on his knowledge to anyone else. He was keeping it for himself. But where the Jedi Master literally told him that like this guy would have had it been 10 years ago, this guy would have whooped both our asses, but he became
mm,
too old. It's about passing down knowledge. It's kind of like being a professional in your field as well, like being a professional artist or professional writer. If you don't have an apprentice or don't have people that you inspire or people that you're passing your knowledge on to or that you're training, your knowledge dies with you because you're going to get to an age where you
mm,
outgrow your knowledge or your skill, you know, where someone is going to overtake you. And this was kind of the message of what this master was teaching his Padawan was that I'm good now. I seem like I'm a badass right now. I could whoop this sis ass, but the only reason I could whoop his ass was because he was aging out. I'm gonna age out soon, and
mm.
you're gonna have to carry on my legacy. There's gonna be a point where I can't, my skills are not gonna be. I might have trained my whole life, but even though I trained my whole life, eventually age catches up with you. Unless you become Sidious, Darth Sidious, and you overcome
Yeah.
death.
The power of the dark side
The
compels
power of the
you.
dark side.
Yes.
That like I think there was a message on it. It was one of the more boring episodes because it was it was like a prequel episode.
No,
because
I mean the thing that
because
annoyed me, I think yeah, it was slow paced and all of that stuff and everything, and yeah, I mean that was okay, and I do like the message also as a whole. I just think that one thing that annoyed me was just the Padawan one not listening to the master, like
yeah.
he was just not listening to him at all, and then two, he was talking so much smack. I thought he was good at what he did. He gets in there and gets cut down in like
In the
one
first
stroke, and
stroke,
I was just
yeah.
like, yeah.
But I
But
think
I guess that's also a lesson, I
yeah, I
guess,
think it was
in
the
place.
hubris. I think it was the hubris of youth. You think you know everything, but you don't know as much. You think you're ready for big adventure, but you're not ready yet. You know, but it was also, I think, something that made that episode boring was like that Jedi's are meant to suppress their emotions,
Mm,
that they're not supposed to express it with the idea that you're going to tilt to the dark side. That's just canon stuff. That's why um, Obi-Wan talks the way he does, and they have things like once you've turned to the dark side, that's kind of become canon. Then you're no longer Jedi, so we refer to you as a completely new character. Ben Solo is not Kylo Ren. They're two different people. Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader, they're not the same person. Like there would be a
mm,
cool fucking story in Star Wars if there's like when like maybe you're like a schizophrenic or not schizophrenic. That's not politically. You have multiple personality disorder. One side of you is like a Kylo Ren, and the other side of you is Ben Solo, and you can switch between being a Sith and a Jedi in the same body type of thing. Um,
Yeah, no, I think like again, I think that's also something that I don't like in Star Wars. It's like it's such an expansive thing, but the binariness of it, if that's a word,
yeah,
I guess it's a word now. But
yeah,
the binariness of it is not interesting. I think because I also think there's this like I think like in terms of like an allegory for life in a sense
yeah,
where it's not what you use, it's why you use it.
yes,
I think that's a big thing for me. Like for example, like like the internet is a great example, right? People always talk about the internet is toxic, it's the most toxic place, blah 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 blah, it's bad. I'm like, no, there's great things that have happened because of the internet. Yes,
absolutely,
there's been people who use the internet for like, like for example, I think like there's channels where people will have quote unquote like Ethan Becker, for example.
yeah,
People have said that he's got like PewDiePie energy or
yes,
whatever the case may be. But he presents his content that way, which might be like quote unquote leaning into the dark side.
yeah,
But the reason why he does it, and like you, and the reason and the way it helps people is like
yeah,
kind of using the dark side of the internet
yeah.
for a good purpose.
He's yeah,
And then you get people.
he's
Yeah,
presenting
sorry.
he's presenting himself as an asshole, but he's actually teaching you valuable lessons to improve your art, things that will actually help you in industry. But he's coming across like he's a douche, but he's actually not. Like
He's
that.
actually a really nice person.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I don't know him personally, but as far as I know, that's
Yeah.
what I've gotten from him.
But that point is interesting. It would be interesting to see people in the Star Wars universe that are force fluid or
No, but I'm saying,
side.
and then you get people who are quote unquote they swear they're doing good things. Like for example, like you said with the Christians and the Crusade and stuff, they were
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're doing this in the name of religion, but they're doing like some of the most horrible stuff
Yeah.
under this guise of under this guise of good. So the Star Wars universe has the potential to tell more stories like that,
Exactly.
where it's just like the Force just exists.
Hmm.
How you use it and why you use it is the important thing. So I liked I guess also yeah. So that episode in that essence also gave me a little bit of those vibes as well.
Yeah.
That
But it
that the
was.
that the Padawan was not he could use the Force, but he was not wise in it. And the reason he was using it is because he wanted to liven up his life,
Yeah.
and in turn ended up getting cut down very quickly.
I thought he
It
was
had
gonna
good
lose an
things, I
arm because the way he fell on top of his like
think.
body. I
Yeah.
thought it was like hand off. And then like he
Ah,
was gonna, because whenever, like in Star Wars is kind of a thing. Whenever a human starts getting robotic parts, it seems like they lean further towards the dark side. I don't know why, like, but
yeah.
anyway, but no, that didn't happen. It was a bit of a slower episode. I think there was a valuable message to it. I know I'm probably gonna watch this whole anthology again. Um,
Mm.
just to like dissect it a bit more because I only watched it once, and I'm gonna be honest. I fell asleep during the last episode, so I didn't watch episode 9. So I can't. So you'll have to tell me about that one,
Yeah, I'll give you my perspective on
the
it.
last episode. But
So
then my
what's the next one?
probably
Oh,
both
sorry,
of
go
us
ahead.
our favorite episode. It's Lob and Ocha. It's the episode,
Oh,
the
well, I
episode
mean,
with
for
the
me, it's
rabbit
a tie
girl.
between the Ninth Jedi and Lop and Ocho.
Yeah.
I like those two episodes much equally. I think that they're the most complete stories in this
Yes.
anthology. And like as we were saying, just before we actually talk about the episode itself, I just wanted to say that my thing with the Empire is that it's that thing of they never have enough, which is my issue. Because it's for example, it's like for example, if you go to somebody like I'm just gonna say like Jeff Bezos, for example, right? Like the dude already at some stage he had acquired everything that he would ever need, but he didn't stop.
Yeah.
And that's where it got to the point where it was dangerous. Like if we look at something like the Empire, they got to a point where they had everything that they needed, but they always felt it would never ever be enough, which is why they end up affecting the planet the way that they do.
Yeah,
Like a lot of technology and everything can be in harmony with the planet, but it becomes this thing where it's just like we need to acquire
yeah.
everything, and it's
The,
like
the
that's not
empire is
necessarily
the
what you need.
manifestation of everything bad in capitalism, and
Yeah,
the Jedi is everything bad in the manifestation of communism or socialism, I suppose. More socialism
yeah,
than communism. Um, but yeah, they basically both of
yeah,
those concepts to the extreme. And there are positives, like
yeah,
we live in a mostly capitalist society. So we understand the type of
yeah,
things. Um, Conforming to the bosses and the overlords is not always bad for you if you want a middle class type of lifestyle, you know. But if you want true freedom, conforming
mm,
is not really good for you. You know, some people might buy into capitalism, some people might not, some people buy into socialism, some people might not, and that's the two extremes that I think. And that's what
yeah,
this episode 8, kind of like presents to you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's,
No,
it's,
because I
it's
think the
almost
thing
like the
is that
it's almost like the Black Panther ethos in a way.
yeah,
You know, like the end resolve in Black Panther. We can keep our borders closed, let no one come in, don't expand, keep all our wealth to ourselves and hold it tight, or open our borders and expand, but the implications that can come with that as well. Are we willing to take the
mm,
risk for the reward? Are we willing to share in that kind of way, you know?
yeah. No, I think because the thing is this is that what's this is that like as we said, like people sitting in the middle. I think like that's the thing. I don't believe there's like one size that fits all or there's one thing
Exactly.
that fits all. I think it's a thing of humans getting together to make a decision that benefits everybody, not satisfies everybody, because that's a different thing. I think a lot of people they deal with things in terms of satisfaction
Yeah.
instead of it being beneficial. So, like
Only
if they,
Sith deal in absolutes.
yeah. So I mean, like, yeah, this episode was because it was a full story. We get to see Lop in the beginning. She's
Mm,
running away from the Empire,
mm.
and then she gets adopted by this family, which was so awesome. And like, they are a family for real. Like, this guy in the beginning doesn't want to adopt it. Like, he's that dude who's like gruff on the outside, but he's such a
So
softie
soft,
that
yeah.
he's such a softie that he's like, I have to do it now, and
Mm.
like takes her in, and there's this whole thing where they, and then they do like a time skip, and you get to see the family together. And like Osho's character, I understand where she was coming from. I did think they pushed it to a comical villain extreme towards the end,
Well, the
just because
sister, Ocho, yeah,
yeah, like
yeah.
they do push it to like a comical extreme towards the end, because
Mm.
she does end up mutilating the people she says that she was doing this to protect them,
Yeah.
like type of thing. So I thought that was a bit
Look,
much, because
it's
I'm like,
again one of those classic stories. It's like the birthright story. It's the Loki. Again, funny enough, the Loki Thor type of ideology. Except in this story, Loki's the good guy and Thor's the bad guy. You know, like um, if Odin had to choose Loki to be the king of Asgard, this is probably the thing that might have happened. Um, the how they passed on like force sensitivity, like in this story there wasn't really force sensitivity. It seems like it was like passed down through the ancient weapon, um, type of thing. And then they had like the republic symbol next to them and all those kind of things. Um, was cool. It was a way different way of legacy and law passing on. None of them seemed particularly force sensitive.
except for Lop. But I think that was the thing though, is that I think in getting that legacy that she gets from the father, it kind of intunes her into the force. Like I do like there's all these different ways to access the
To
force.
tune
Like
in. you're right. That is actually an interesting concept. That like you don't necessarily need to be born force sensitive. There could be experiences that you go through that make you more sensitive to the force or things like that. Like him passing on like the birthright and making her more force sensitive. I know Ocha, this what's this? Ocha, the sister.
Yeah.
She kind of was wielding these red things, but it didn't seem more tech than dark
Yeah.
side. Um, but her logic for why the empire, for prosperity, for conforming, for the capitalist ideology and stuff like that, I suppose the idea was that some people would be subjugated in the process, so it did kind of make her bad. But her logic behind why she wanted to join the empire also made sense to me in a way.
No, no, it made sense. I just think that once you get to poisoning the oceans and all of that stuff, then it's
Yeah,
like the planet that you're trying to protect is getting destroyed by the people you swore would protect it.
exactly.
Maybe it's just a thing where she was just in too deep, I think. And I would definitely like to see a series based on that. I would love to see Locke chase her sister in like a Naruto Sasuke esque fashion
Hey,
in
yeah.
Star Wars. Yeah, I would like to see that, and then
And like
see
as
their
it progresses, the sister becomes more and more Sith Lord and stuff like that. And Lop is just becoming more and more Jedi orientated or light side orientated. That'd actually be a
yeah,
dope series.
and then she fights to save her sister type of thing, and
Yeah,
that's like the end of. And maybe I wouldn't want a Cowboy Bebop ending. I would actually like them to be back together and be sisters because that was
yeah.
I really enjoyed that stuff. But that's just me being a hopeless romantic because again I don't like being depressed. But I think that would be a great follow up. Like I think I like the story. I like the dad. I
Great
liked how they
animation
interacted as
style.
the three of them. Oh, the animation was
I like
great
the
as
moment
well.
where the dad also told her, put your visors off. Look with your eyes. Like
Mm.
when he first
Yeah,
opens it up and she's like,
the first time I saw that, I was like, Akira Toriyama must be expecting a check. Like they just,
yeah.
I was just expecting Lop to just scream over 9,000 for no reason. Like,
Oh, but that was cool and like shame to like also lose like her assistant bot because even when she was captured as a slave, that little robot was following her around the whole time.
yeah,
Like I was in such
yeah.
a quick moment, but I was like, oh, her robot, like you
Yeah,
sliced it.
and the robot with the picture, and it
Yeah.
showed the picture and everything. Yeah, I would love to see a continuation of that if possible. Like a whole like a 26 episodes or maybe like a two
No,
season
how
thing
dope would it
or
be if
something
like that
along.
character makes like a cameo in like The Mandalorian or something?
Yeah, like I would love to see these characters like continue and interact because
Mm,
that's the thing about Star Wars. That's another criticism I have of it sometimes is especially in the main movies. It feels like we're in one neighborhood.
yeah,
Like it always Tatooine. It's always Dagobah, something like
yeah.
that. And it's a universe. I would like to see the universe
Yeah,
type of
talking
thing.
about Tatooine, you're right, even in the twins episode of this, it looked like that dude landed on Tatooine. And
Yeah.
the Rock show was also on Tatooine.
Oh, right. But I
That,
mean, yeah, but I still feel like it was at least we saw a different side of Tatooine
yeah.
versus the stuff that we see of Tatooine all the time. But yeah, like that this episode with Locke, I really liked the emotional family dynamic that they managed to capture in a very short time.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with that.
And how
Most
families can
definitely.
be so different, but feel so close. Like even the reluctant father, like you could
Mhm.
feel his love for his adopted daughter. Like
For
in that
both of them
moment.
though.
Hey, they
I
actually
felt
did
it
that.
like
And how long was that episode? Like 15 minutes or 12 minutes. And they put so much emotion. But I think that's good animation, good voice acting. Because I did watch, like I said, I watched the dub version as well. And there was also good emotion in the voice acting, good emotion in the animation. I just, like you said, it was a holistic experience.
mm.
I
I might
felt bad when
actually,
the dad got chopped down, you know, like I was like,
yeah,
no, you know,
yeah. I mean, that's kind of where Ocho went over for me. I was just like, come on, you said that you love this dude.
yeah.
Ease up,
And
relax.
like when she's calling out and saying, we'll always be sisters, I don't care what you're doing, we're still sisters, you know, we're still a
Yeah.
family. Like, you're like, oh,
Mm. And the dad is not even mad that he lost his eye. He's just like, I'm not gonna be able to see how pretty you
yeah.
both are. It's like, oh man. All right. So now we get to episode 9. Episode 9 was kind of lackluster for me.
I'm reading this
Um,
now. Apparently, episode 9 was done by the same studio that did Toby 1.
yeah. No, but it felt lackluster for me just in the story because it's just like it's a Jedi who was apparently part of a kingdom and he fled to well, he went to go learn the ways of Jedi,
Hmm.
but then he found out the kingdom got taken over and and he has to go. I don't know if you want me to spoil it for
No,
you or
no, go
whatever.
for it, go for it. I will watch it.
Oh, so basically it's this
I did
Jedi that has
start
to save
watching
the
that episode, but I fell asleep while I watched the ninth one. I meant to watch all the episodes, but I fell asleep during the ninth one,
well,
the last one.
basically this guy's got to go save the princess because she was part of this kingdom where her dad was kind of taking over and all of that stuff, and her dad was trying to bring peace to the planet or whatever. It was not working out too great.
Yeah.
So basically what happens is that they meet up and they go on this journey with two of these two tour guides who the princess is paying because the princess has become a fully fledged warrior at this stage.
Okay.
She's great with arrows and stuff, and then it turns around and they find out that the king's sister poisoned him and killed him and took the throne. So the Jedi has to fight him, but she is a way more capable Jedi than he is.
Ah.
So was this he and he's always and this Jedi that we're following, he always has this vision of somebody dying. And we get a flashback, like it's like 2 seconds, where his Jedi Master says, "You shouldn't go back to the kingdom because if you do, you're going to be tempted by the dark side or whatever." So the vision that he saw was him cut. It turns out it's him cutting down the princess by accident or whatever. So yeah, the new queen or whatever uses the force to revive the princess, but like he says that I'll only do that if you become my Padawan or my acolyte or whatever. So then it ends with the Jedi turning to the dark side and he becomes her acolyte or whatever in this kingdom or whatever.
Okay.
That's basically the clip notes of the episode.
Ah, but
It's not everything. You still gotta watch it to put it all together because I just gave you a very brief
yeah,
rundown.
that's
But like,
that's interesting concepts. Like how I like the idea of like how Jedi's are tempted by the dark side, but more interesting to me are stories of how dark side is tempted towards the light side. I want to see more of those
yeah, no,
kind
I'm
of
saying I think
stories.
that was the thing. It just kind of felt too original recipe Star Wars for me.
Yeah, that's probably
Like
why I
it,
fell asleep. I probably just subconsciously fell asleep during that episode because I was like,
yeah, like it felt, and also it was just the thing of the way that the thing happens, his vision happens. Like for me, it was kind of lackluster, and also like the queen character. She's like one thing I don't like about the dark side is that a lot of people who fully embrace the dark side they turn out to be some of the ugliest people in the whole of Star Wars. Like this woman's head is huge and she's just like it just screams evil. Like if you look at Palpatine, you don't think, maybe he might be, you look at Vader after he takes off the mask, you're just like, ugh.
yeah.
like
But
everybody who embraces the dark side gets like burnt up and
But they are like
I'm just saying for me, I think
apparently the force does that. Like there's physical changes when you completely give in a weird way. Like Kylo Ren, it didn't happen to him, so I don't know what if the force had other plans for him.
well
But
he got a scar on his
but
face.
normally your eyes go yellow when you go like dark side.
Yeah,
You get
yeah. Her eyes go yellow in the thing. Her eyes
yeah.
go yellow in this particular episode. But yeah, it felt very point A to point B, and it felt very like original recipe Star Wars, where I was just like, yeah, that's all right, but compared to the other stuff,
Compared to the
it
other
was
ones,
just not as strong.
I'd say yeah, my 9 or my 10 out of 10, ninth Jedi, I'd probably give like a 9.5 out of 10, maybe even a 10 out of 10. Toby one, I'd give like something like a 8. I did enjoy that one. Twins, I'd give a 7.5. But then I
Yeah,
think
man,
I think
six,
nine,
seven.
Lob and Ocha, I'd also give something like a 9.5. The other,
Yeah, yeah, no, nine and a half for me with. I just think it suffered from a time constraint,
yeah,
but I think it was definitely like the strongest. Well, besides Ninth Jedi, I really those two really tied for me. Those are
yeah.
my two favorites outside in this whole anthology. And then it goes episode one with Ronin. So
Oh
I
yeah.
think those are my top three from this whole thing.
I think yeah, if Ronin wasn't so like Ninja Scroll ish, it was very Ninja
Mm,
Scroll for me. Which is not a bad thing. Um, but I actually didn't. There wasn't a lot to take out of it. It was just a wanderer in a village, and it was a fight. It was basically just a wanderer, a village, a fight, and the end conclusion to the fight. And then the reveal
yeah,
that he's got the big reveal of that is that he uses a red saber, but he's not evil.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
to elaborate
Again,
on
I would still like to see a continuation because I
yeah,
would like to know the story behind that. Like
exactly.
I would like to see like if he was part of like a dot, if he was like part of like a Sith sect, and then he like defects, and then like it's just the lightsaber that he has, and maybe there's like a deeper story where there was
Yeah,
like a friend of
and the
his or
reason
a love.
and like when he opens his tunic or his what do you call it? His kimono up is like
Yeah,
he's got like all these kyber crystals that he's actually collecting or storing or whatever. What's he doing with that? Is he gonna put all of them into one massive saber or something? Like
yeah, like I. And also another thing that was interesting about that episode one is that he fights dirty.
yeah,
Like he uses this. He's not like he's good, but it's not like he's just super masterful or whatever. He
he's
uses
probably
tricks and
he's probably our storyline of a true like great Jedi. Like that's why I think it's called a Ronin, because that's what a Ronin basically is. Like a Ronin doesn't conform to the Empire. He's got all the skills of a samurai, but he doesn't follow that code of Bushido to the T like that. And like if
yeah,
you if you think Bushido is Jedi or the Jedi system, he's just a Ronin. He's not a ninja. He's not a samurai. He's something in the middle. He's a rogue. He's just doing his own thing, existing in the world. He happens to be sensitive in the Force and use lightsabers, but he's just going about his business.
yeah, 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 yeah. So
That
I
would
thought
you,
that
you're right. That would actually make a great series as well.
I think there's a lot of things for the stepping off points, especially those three that I mentioned,
Yeah,
that I would love to see.
yeah.
Everything else I think can be a one and done for me. No, no,
Hmm.
no, no, no. Also the episode with the planet, with the village planet people. I think that Jedi in particular as well, where she's in hiding and
Oh,
eventually he
yes,
steps
yes,
out.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I would also like to
Village
see a
Bride episode. Yeah.
yeah, the village right. I would also like to see a continuation of that Jedi as
Hmm.
well, because she eventually steps it like she's reluctant to step into the fray, but eventually her inner nature compels her to be like, I gotta do something.
Yeah.
So I think I would like that's the thing. I think all of these characters have interesting setups, and that would like it's like great pilots just to see where they would go from there on that type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a massive success. It was nice to see something super different in Star Wars media,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to them doing more stuff like this as well.
Hmm.
And maybe like instead of full on movies, which they could still do obviously, because they're still gonna do like full on series. But like Star Wars as a franchise, one of the things that's the most interesting about it is that it's a franchise that can be adopted into multiple mediums and it can
Exactly.
all make sense.
Exactly. This is exactly what this is showcasing is why we can see so many shows. Like, just do a shitload of spin-offs. And you don't need to put C3PO or R2D2,
No,
or don't show me
no,
Anakin. I don't need to know what
no.
Leia's doing. Do like what they did in this, and turn, like you said, turn Village Bride into, or the Ninth Jedi, or Lob and Ocha, turn those into full-fledged series and let us enjoy Star Wars from that perspective.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because I mean, even if you look at the Mandalorian also as well, it kind of covers like, yeah, okay, you get reference to the original movies because you're
Yeah,
gonna get reference. But I'm just saying it's like following a totally different character in a totally different continuity
yeah.
within this universe, going on a separate story. And like it would they could be an interesting thing where they do an Avengers-esque thing, or at some stage somehow, like maybe when they're actually making the Jedi Council, we could see Lop, and we could see the girl from,
The
what's her name
girl,
in the Ninth
yeah,
Jedi,
and
I can't
maybe
remember
like
her name.
maybe the girl is there, and she's like what do they call him? A chancellor, and the other guy is maybe like her knight, like her bodyguard or something. Like, yeah, like seeing
Yeah,
them in the background, like how we saw E.T. in one of the prequel movies. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
And then they could actually, because the Council of Jedi is a cool idea. And I don't think it's like as cut and dried because, as I said, there's that story where there's the Jedi Council who are doing something foul. So you can still continue, like, you can even have power plays within the council
But it would
itself
be
where there's,
dope in the council if the council, when they reassemble different. They start changing
yeah,
um,
exactly.
their cut and dry things. You can't have relationships, or what would the Council of Jedi look like if they change some of those strict rules that they had. They start
Yeah.
maybe embracing certain gray Jedi's as like their spies, or people who can do more sinister things.
Or, I mean, they even have a chancellor that's a gray Jedi as
Yeah,
well. I would like to see
exactly.
stuff. Or even they have somebody who has like a red lightsaber and he's sitting on the Jedi
Yeah,
Council. And people are like, that doesn't make sense. And it's like, no, actually, yeah, it's linked to how he interprets the Force, but the
yes,
way he wields the lightsaber is he does it for good. He doesn't do it because he's evil. He's just
yeah.
a dude that's like
That's like,
super hype.
yeah, it's like in the military, or like a James Bond character. They have a license to kill. He can kill for good. He kills for the
Yes.
bigger picture. The like soldiers. People are not scared to get their hands dirty for the greater peace or something like that. So maybe they have a Sith on the council, but the Sith has a tendril of good, a tendril, or a little bit of the light side in them.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just saying there's a lot that they can do with Star Wars, and this actually got me back into Star Wars a bit because I
Hmm.
haven't, like, I was covering some stuff for Star Wars, and then I was like, okay, it's not really hitting on my channel. But I think if they keep continuing in this direction, I might start covering more Star Wars stuff. Again, I'm not like an expert. I don't know everything about
Yeah.
everything, but I am aware of the universe, and I'm more in tune to the Jedi than I am to the other like people because like the Jedi for me were just what pulled me in the first
Yeah.
place.
Hey, if you're here, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. You are spectacular. Now, you know the spiel. We got videos on screen right now. We got a playlist on screen and an icon on screen if you want to subscribe and everything. Thank you so much. And yes, I know this was a little bit of a weird edit, so thank you for bearing with us while we deal with this very difficult time. And we'll see you all in another video because Meister Man's got to be out. Peace.